We are the end of October, almost November. Beautiful outside. I can't believe it's going to get dark. Spring ahead, fall back, dark later. Light later. Yeah, it's going to get dark later. That's good. It's good to be with you. Yesterday afternoon, I got to spend most of the afternoon in the shop with my car. Long time. And it put me off my game a little bit. So I missed a couple of meetings, and today's a new day, and I get to do better today. And we're going to talk this week about how important it is to learn to fail forward, and that's going to be the message this coming Sunday at church. And I'm excited about sharing that with you. And one of the things we're going to talk about is what I just did, which is to be willing to talk about the things that don't quite go right. So, and then we go on. We love each other, and then we go on, and we get better every day. That's what I hope is happening with me. That would be great. All right. So last week we began to talk about this idea that the writer gives us. And this is really the Hebrew writer. It's really his idea, this person's idea. Well, it's probably God's idea, but it's an idea that's worth a little more consideration. In chapter 9, verse 23, he said that it was necessary then for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with these sacrifices. And he talks about there being a sanctuary in the heavens, and the tabernacle that Moses built being a copy of what he saw. And the Old Testament kind of verifies that Moses saw something and God gave him exact dimensions on what to build so that it was like what he saw when he went up on the mountain. And now we're going to move forward into the 10th chapter, and the first verse says, and we're only going to just do the first couple words because I just want to talk about one idea. It says that the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming. And so there's this concept of copies and shadow. And I think it has enough value. I know that it does for me, and I hope for you, for us to spend a couple minutes talking about this. Talks about what we experience here in this world, in our worldly lives, being symbolic or a shadow or a copy. Like this isn't the real, that there's something more than this. And people of faith, we all say, well, of course there's something more than my flesh and blood. There's my soul. But people who are not of faith, this is reality. This is it. This is all there is. And it is such a drastic difference in perspective that we call ourselves strangers and aliens in this world, knowing that we don't belong here. But more than that, we understand that what we're doing here is more than what we're doing here. It's like this. When I go to church on Sunday, there are some things that we do that I've done all my life in worship. Every time I worship, we do some of these things. We sing together. We pray together. We learn together. We confess together. And those, whatever forms they take, have changed over the millennia. But there's a standard thing to worship that we should always be aware and practicing. And what the writer is telling us is that when I sing on Sunday, that's a shadow of a greater reality. The song that I'm singing for me is a shadow of something else that's happening that I probably can't see with my mortal eyes. The prayer that I share when I pray for you, when I pray for my family, when we pray for the nation, the prayers are a copy, a shadow of something greater that we can't see with our mortal eyes. And he goes on in chapter 10 to spend the whole chapter talking about this idea, really. And I wanted, it's so important, I wanted you to connect with it so that when you go to whatever church you're worshiping in, or whenever you worship, like in your home or something, you understand there's something greater going on than what we realize, that there is a heavenly worship service. And our participation in that heavenly worship service happens whenever we worship here. But what we're doing here is merely a shadow of that reality. And the writer likens it to this. He says that what we do here is like the law written on tablets of stone, but that's a shadow of the greater reality that God is going to write something upon our hearts. He doesn't mean our physical hearts, he means our souls, so that we are able to connect with the reality of the heavenly worship. He says that the transition is from us, for example, when we confess, having to go through the shadow confession of confession to a priest, or our shadow prayers when we're in worship on Sunday, to understanding that our prayers are gathered together and they are lifted almost like incense, like an aroma, the Bible tells us, unto a heavenly worship service. And so the prayers of the saints are gathered, the songs of the saints are gathered, and we join together with other saints who have gone before us, who are singing with us now, and saints who will be singing with us 100 years from now. I know it's unfathomable for us to think about that, but all the saints sing together, and we sing not just with saints, we sing with angels in a heavenly worship service. And so there's this grand idea of something beyond ourselves, and that is very, very hopeful for me, to know that I am participating in a grand reality. The idea is not the writer's idea. I think it's God's idea, but God presented it to people before the scriptures. And the concept, like many truths and many great truths, concept has been around a long, long time. That what we experience here in this world is a copy or a shadow. And you still see it in movies and stuff. There's a lot, like The Matrix, and there's a lot of stuff like that. That concept, that idea, has been around a long time. One of my favorite illustrations of it, or uses of it, is from Plato. He has an image. He calls it a chapter in his writing. He calls it the cave, and the image is like this: that you and I, our reality is in a cave, and we are chained with the opening of the cave behind us, and there's like a movie screen in front of us, or just like a screen in front of us, and we can't turn around. We can only see straight ahead, and everything that we know is what we see on that screen. We don't even see things side to side. We just see what's on the screen. Behind us is the opening, and the sun comes up, shines in the opening of the cave, and then the sun goes down and it's all dark, and the sun comes up and it shines, and all that we can see is the shadow on the screen of things that are behind us, and there are players behind us outside of the cave. And so when the sun shines and hits that player, there's a shadow on the screen. We see that shadow and we think the shadow is what's real, because that's all we know. We don't know anything else. And what this writer is saying is that we who are believers have been unchained. And we are not only able to turn around and see the players, we can become the players. And we participate. Our worship is outside of the cave. And we get to cast the shadows for others who will soon be unchained, or that God will unchain. But then there will be those who are forever chained and think that what they're seeing on the screen is all that there is. And I love that image for as a believer, in understanding that I've been set free to see myself for what I truly am. I don't have to be chained to this shadow world. That there is a greater reality for me that is far superior to what I see with my mortal eyes. That is a tremendous word of hope. And if you've never come to Jesus for any other reason, there's a great reason right there. Be set free from thinking that what you see with your mortal eyes is all there is. There is so much more. I pray you have a great week and that this image seep into your souls. It's been good to be with you.